Okay, I think I'm on. No idea if this is working correctly. Someone in the chat wants to say, am I on? Actually, oh man. Fuck. Okay. I'm going to presume that I'm on. In fact, I'm just going to double check that I am. Might have accidentally hit the shit. But if I go on my YouTube on my iPad, see if I'm on, then I'll know for sure. Oh, fuck. Thanks, LPK. Okay, so I'm on. Oh, wait. I need this thing because all my notes are on this fucking thing. Okay. This episode actually sucked. Just so everyone's aware, I watched this a little bit late last night, and I thought, hey, that didn't suck as much as the last one. But then I watched it again, and it really sucks. So I'm going to explain today why it sucks. And unfortunately, we're going to have the grade bars back because I think I made a slideshow that's a little bit too fucking long, too many megabytes for this thing to upload. So instead, I'll be sharing my screen. I understand. Let's proceed. There we go. Share. All right. So let's kick it off with episode 6. Oh, man. Okay. So our opening scene here, we've got Egwene hauled by a leash, but she's obviously shuffling her feet along with it. So she's doing like a crab walk or whatnot. But the only thing that I could register from this initial shot was those silly upturned boots, like right at the toes. Like I'm still kind of fascinated by that design choice. The rest of the scene's kind of lost on me, but yeah. Egwene's on a leash. We saw that in the last episode, but it seems to be really apparent here because she's getting dragged by it. But it seemed like they'd done away with the leashes at the end of like the first season, and I don't care enough to kind of quibble about it's dumb. Egwene gets a little bit violent, and she decides to punch the shit out of Rena. Find out it's Rena. Quick little side note: I thought that actress Zelia Thing Jones was going to play Galad, but that's not happening. It's playing Rena. Yeah. Does a female quite well. Anyways, I'm totally convinced that Rena is a chick. Good for her. Whatever. Anyways, my comment here on this blurry shot where Egwene gets punched back from punching Rena is that it doesn't do force fields. When you're on the IDOM, like there's not an active magical force field that like prevents damage. It was just well established that whatever pain is inflicted on a Soldom, a Damani feels twice over, which is exactly what Rena says completely after this. And I would just point out that Rena didn't feel fuck all from this punch because the force field that they invented blocked the punch and threw Egwene back. So the line doesn't make sense. You felt twice of nothing. Well, guess what, you dipshits? 2 times 0 is still 0. But yeah. This is where like the show constantly gets into problems where they're parroting or taking lines from the books, but they've changed stuff. But then their IQ is like in the 50s, so they don't know that what they're saying, what they're showing, no longer matches, and that's what we have here. Then Rena says that the IDOM or the ADAM cannot be removed, not by you. Thanks for that. Plot, because that's what's happening there. You can't take it off, Egwene, but don't worry. Nynaeve or Elayne will take it off. That's That's exactly what that's saying right there. So then Rennek keeps on asking about what Egwene's name is. And when she relents and says it's Egwene, she keeps it, but that's the opposite of how the Seanchan kind of operated. They kind of, with all Damane, their whole culture revolves around getting names and a better name, or what happens if you get a worse name. But kind of like right off the bat with Damane, it was all about, you're no longer a person, so here's a name that's more fitting for a fucking cat or a dog. So Egwene, they never really gave two shits what Egwene's name was. They just called her Tuli. So there's that. And it seemed like there was some type of reward if Egwene was good, that she would get to keep her name, which is the opposite of how the shit would work. So anyways, then Rena decides to leave the fucking room, and she hangs the bracelet up on the little hook. This was kind of cool in the books, where the bracelet would be hanged from like a peg, and she would have to stay in the bed because she'd be tied to the leash or whatnot. But immediately Egwene decides to go for the bracelet, and she pulls this stupid face. But what I'm kind of wondering at the end of the scene, considering that she like crawls back, what's the range that she's actually allowed from the bracelet? Because that's the one thing they're not establishing at all, is how far away from the bracelet can she get while having the collar on? And if it's quite a bit of distance, well, shit, maybe she should just try running away. Maybe that's the first thing she would try and do, is see how far away from that bracelet can I get running away. Anyways, this is probably my favorite episode of the whole show so far, but mostly it's because I really hate this Egwene, and I love that she gets the shit beaten out of her like 10 fucking times in this episode. That's all I'm saying. All right. Now we're on to this dumb scene. And this dumb scene starts with Lanfear asking what Rand wants, and then Lanfear responding, asking what Lanfear wants. So then we get a non sequitur when Rand calls Lanfear Lanfear, of like, oh, I'm not Selene anymore. And then they talk past each other some more. And then there's some discussion about Rand's friends turning. And Lanfear seems to say something about Matt, Perrin, Nynaeve, and Egwene. I didn't think they would turn once, implying that they did in like the past turning of the wheel. And I'm going, what the fuck were these other, like Matt, Perrin, Egwene, Nynaeve? They weren't part of the War of Power. They're not reincarnations of anyone that Lanfear would identify, are they? Maybe in this show. It's dumb. And the sexualized, like, this scene is it's pure fucking slash fanfic. That's what this is. Like, Lanfear is not supposed to be wearing this type of shit. Supposed to be in like a nice, silky, flowing yellow, or not yellow, white dress. Rand is not supposed to be bare. This is fetishism to the extreme, and it's gross, and it's whatever. Anyways, the next scene is great because Moiraine is fired, although I should call her Moron. Moron is fired. Service is no longer required. Rand has clued in that Logain is supposed to teach him, and I hope all of us who have read the books realize how stupid this plan is. And then Moron goes to say another moronic thing, which is, after she's been fired, you can't listen to her, she's a Forsaken. But the whole scheme of Rand falling asleep to find out what Ishamael was up to so that they could learn his plan was contingent on listening to a Forsaken. So let that sink in for a little bit more. All right. Then we have a 30-second scene in the foregate, and quite honestly, because it was 30 seconds and it like seemed to kind of be semi-book accurate, I really didn't have an issue with it. But then we get this dumb scene. It starts off with Elayne and Nynaeve in an attic somewhere. Nynaeve is restless. Elayne tells her to stop pacing, and then she says, "I'm investigating," like a bitch. And I'm honestly wondering, like, how the hell did these people write a less likable Nynaeve than Robert Jordan did? Especially like early books Nynaeve. She was supposed to be unlikable. She grew to be likable. Was her arc, but I have no idea how they're making her less likable. It's I wouldn't call it a talent. It's kind of the opposite of a talent. It's like a talent used negatively, whatever that is. All right. The warder has a strange African accent, like Ivan, but that's par for the course. Rima, who's this crazy Aes Sedai lady, says something about elderberries, which was a Monty Python reference in my head. And then she says that they're abundant in Tyr. Thanks for that information, but you're in Falme, unless this is Tyr as well, but whatever. Then finally, we get a fucking answer to Nynaeve's belt, because Mother Gwen. No, wait, it's Rima, not Mother Gwenna. She says, "Oh, you've got a wisdom belt on." Why? Okay. Now we know that that's what the wisdom belt is, but why would the White Tower let her continue to wear that as a novice or an accepted? It's dumb. Then she goes on to say the shelter of Aes Sedai sisterhood promises it. And I'm like, what? Okay. Shelter of Aes Sedai sisterhood. Elayne says Leandrin broke. Oh, yeah. Then they talk about Leandrin and what brought them there. And then Elayne says that Leandrin broke every single of the 3 oaths. So she broke the 3 oaths, every single one of them, she says. Except the second one, because that's the oath to make no weapon with which one man may kill another. And Leandrin hasn't done that. So I'm beginning to suspect that, since novice number 1 hardly knew what the 5 different flows were, and Egwene still doesn't know what Aes Sedai means because she only learned that in Nynaeve's dream, so we can assume that's an alternate reality. Elayne, who has been to the White Tower, according to this show, every other year since she was born, she doesn't know one of the 3 oaths. That seems kind of important. But anyways, after Nynaeve says that Leandrin is a dark friend, and then Elayne says that she broke all the oaths, even though it's really only 2 of the 3. Then it dawns all of a sudden after that to this Rima chick that Leandrin must be Black Aja. Dun dun dun. It's a fucking stupid scene. All right. So let's cut to Leandrin and Lanfear murder friends. This is about 10 or 11 minutes into the show. So Leandrin's scared a little bit because someone's in the room, so she fire blasts, and all of a sudden Lanfear is able to absorb it, not deflect it, not cut the weave, not shield or anything, but whatever. I guess Leandrin knows this is Lanfear because Ishamael said that Lanfear was the one Forsaken that he had freed so far. Cool. Lanfear asks Leandrin why she works for Ishamael. And I'm wondering, why would you ask this? Because who else would she work for? Because he was like the only one out and about and free and doing shit. So could she have worked for Bilal? Could she have worked for, Asmodean? No, because they're still locked up, but they don't exist in this show. So you're Forsaken number 2 on the scene. So why are you fucking asking this, Lanfear? You sound like a retard. So yeah. Then Leandrin goes on, or Lanfear goes on to basically keep justifying her argument, which is probably designed to bring Leandrin into her fold. It's like, Leandrin, you're supposed to hate men. So why don't you follow me instead? And then there's some feminist dialogue about men hurt us, betray us, and we still love them. And I'm thinking, fuck off, show. And then there was something about Leandrin swearing her oaths to the dark to save her son, whose name is Aludrin, who I caught in the X-ray a little bit earlier. But does this mean Leandrin's like a recent convert to the Shadow? Because her son turned 95, and she's like, oh, we'll just make him live a little bit longer. I don't know. Then Leandrin kills the son, and I'm just like, what the fuck is the point of this scene? Because it's fucking retarded. But not as retarded as the next scene. So Loial and Ingtar are slaves that serve cheese platters. They call Loial a gardener, even though that's what the Seanchan call the Ogier in the Deathwatch Guard, not just any Ogier. Surath is ugly as fuck. Like, her head, I know now that it's like a bald cap with like some hair in the middle, but it makes her head look weird. And I agree. Like, you see this actress in any other context, and she's decently looking. But I wouldn't fuck Surath with someone else's dick, is all I'm saying. Like, she's fucking ugly as shit, man. So they goad Loial into singing, and then he sings almost too low for human hearing, or it's not even really singing. He's fucking humming in a very low voice, and then a CGI plant here wiggles. So that's tree singing for you guys. We got an Easter egg. Hooray. Surath claps like a lunatic. And then ultimately, with the real purpose of the scene, where Ingtar says that the horn is in Turok's storeroom of treasures or curiosities that isn't being guarded, but Loial is more concerned with Egwene, and that Egwene is awesome, and Egwene's the best, and if there's anyone that can survive being a Damane, it's Egwene, because underneath her sweet exterior, she's steel. And I'm thinking, sweet exterior, the fuck are you smoking, Loial? Because she's been nothing but a bitch to basically everybody in every single fucking scene that we've seen. The reason I like this episode is because Egwene gets the shit beaten out of her constantly. Now, I didn't like Book Egwene, but I loathe Show Egwene. And when I see her get the crap kicked out of her, I'm like, good job, Show. Good job. I like this. But she's not sweet. She doesn't have a sweet exterior. She doesn't have a sweet interior. She doesn't have steel anywhere in her. She's a terrible human being. And if there's anyone that deserves to basically be collared and enslaved, it's this chick. So, yeah. But we're only getting started, because after this, we've got like the next Egwene torture scene, which sucks. But it's basically, this whole episode comes down to one line from The Great Hunt, which is where Egwene, I believe she confesses to Min that she thought about using the pitcher in her room to hit Rena with it, or Seta, or one of the Soldam. And as a result of thinking it, she wasn't able to touch the pitcher for a week. So they took one line from The Great Hunt and they turned it to a fucking whole episode dominated by Egwene. Like, fully a third of the airtime of this episode is Egwene and her struggle to do Two Girls, One Cup, or in this context, yeah, touch a pitcher of water. So she does some stupid poses some more. Let me just click ahead. Oh, no, that's a different scene. Some more poses. There's some more force fields. Her dumb hand clutches like a spastic again. Rena says that the strongest are the hardest to break. why are you saying this? And then it ends with Egwene looking at a tree in a fake CGI shot. So that was fun. The next scene starts with a pun where Ishamael talks about prophet and prophet. And I immediately thought to Dogma, which is where that pun was also used. That's a Kevin Smith film from like 1998. So yeah, you writers, you steal from The Departed and you steal from Kevin Smith films. So yeah, fuck you guys. They also steal from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back because in essence what he says in this whole scene is, I'm altering the deal, pray I don't alter it any further. Oh, who'd have thought that would come, you dumb men. Anyways, next scene. Alana's gonna go get her fuck on. So she says she's dying for some tea, but I imagine that's show code for I want 3 dicks inside of me. They stop at a temple of the Forsaken. And if you guys can look, I zoomed in on this and like increased the res, at least for my, I think we're still at 8 Forsaken statues. There's one on the far left that's really, really tiny. So this just confirms to me more that Samael will be a dwarf actor. Maybe not Peter Dinklage, but maybe Warwick Davis or the R2D2 man's dead. Maybe somebody else will come about, but Samael is definitely going to be a midget. And then we've got the other 7 around it. So that's what will happen. Maxim then points out that when Lan is like, why are we going to, oh, a little bit too far. Lan's like, why are we going to camp here in this evil place, the Temple of the Forsaken? And then Maxim says, shelter is shelter. What fucking shelter? Because it's, there's no shelter here. You're out in the open. You think that maybe the mountain there, like a hillside, cliffside, is that shelter? No, you're still outdoors, bud. Thanks for coming out. So then Lan starts talking about he can't go to the White Tower until the White Tower HR updates their files for him no longer being Moron's warder because of the bond. And because he was asking that, Alana says that the Amyrlin is in Caemlyn again, because if we remember from season 1, the Amyrlin was in Caemlyn. So Caemlyn seems to be the place there everyone needs to go when they're not in the White Tower and isn't on screen. So great. Then the scene kind of sort of ends in the middle with Alana saying, what you're willing to do changes depending on what you're faced with. And my thoughts immediately jumped to Alana faced with 500 dicks. And yeah, she'd be willing to do that. That's her character now. So Lan nopes out of the green sex tent. He decides to pack his shit up and leave. Maxim somehow gets the drop on Lan and points out that he shouldn't be leaving when friends are sleeping. And I'm like, you're not sleeping. You were just boning Alana. We heard the noise just a couple seconds ago. And then for some reason, Ivan shows up and everyone's convinced that Lan is working for Lanfear now. Why? Is it because one of them is named Lan and the other one named Lanfear and they made that connection? This plot makes no sense. This is stupid. In the previous episode or 2 episodes back, I think the only conclusion was that Lan was illiterate because he couldn't translate Lanfear, daughter of the night, which is written as Lanfear in the old tongue. He didn't know what. There's no way around that gaping hole. There, he has to be illiterate for that to make sense. But then they jump to the conclusion that he's obviously working with Lanfear, who they would have only known was freed because they read the same poem that implicates. I'm not even going to think about it. This is it's just dumb and bad. So, yeah. So then there's some additional melodrama, and Alana decides to tie up Lan with weaves of air, and they threaten to kill him until he reveals what he knows. And you begin to think, uh-oh, he's been covering for the lesbian love affair this whole time, but then he spills the beans and says, no, we found the dragon reborn. Good fucking Lord. This sucks so much. All right. So then, if we think back, Lanfear had claimed that he had been protecting Rand's dreams, except not this one. So we've seen Rand in this one in like the second episode beginning where everyone's dead. Now we get to see it again. Then Ishii and Lanfear kind of shows up. I'm sorry about this. So, all right. I think we're all a little bit to blame here because the whole fandom likes to call Ishamael Ishii because it's just fewer syllables. But I think we as a fandom are allowed to be upset that the show decided to call him Ishii. Because this is a pure fanfic alert that Lanfear decides to call Ishamael Ishii instead of, you could call him Elon, which would be, a more term of familiarity. His name before he took on the name that men gave him to curse him. But I think the last thing in-world characters would have done would be to call Ishamael Ishii. We do it a lot. That doesn't excuse the show from doing it. Fuck the show. So anyways, talk a little bit more about men who can channel and the madness that they all of a sudden kill all their loved ones. No, that's not how it works. The madness manifests itself in different ways. That's seen over and over in the books. You don't go only and kill your loved ones. That would be stupid. Then Lanfear also says that the dream world is dangerous and you can die in the dream world. And all I'm left wondering is, you mean like when Rand fucking stabbed himself through the gut in episode 8 of season 1? Is that dangerous? Because that just woke him up. So pick a lane, show, because you fucking suck. All right, then Lanfear says that Rand was right. He's got no reason to trust her. Sorry, I've been drinking. So the plot obviously needs us to see Egwene again. And what I'm left with here is wondering Rand's thought process, because you're dealing with a super jealous psycho bitch that went evil when the last dragon broke her heart, so much so that that's what turned her to the dark side. But you're gonna ask her to help you peep on some new girl that used to peg you and that you finger blasted in her dad's inn, not your dad's inn. Your dad didn't have an inn. You fucking finger blasted that chick in her dad's property. That's a whole different level. You wouldn't do that, right? Because you kind of know that Lanfear's crazy horny for you and kind of insane. Like if you have an ex-girlfriend and she swore her soul to the fucking devil, you might be a little bit cautious about her, especially when you ask for favors in order to check on like different girls. So yeah. So we get another Egwene torture scene where she's in the kennel still. The acting sucks. And then Lanfear pulls her away, and then Rand says, I'll do anything in order to save her. So stupid. All right. Then I think we're on to the 4th or 5th. Yeah, okay, that's what this scene was, Rand. Then we get Egwene, who is hearing shit through the walls. And honestly, because unfortunately, well, with this one, I didn't skip through the like previously on, so I saw the like little like the Maigan Mix Sedai from season 1, where she's got her saggy tits out in the steam bathroom with Moiraine's saggy tits and everyone else's saggy tits. I was like, oh, there's got to be a reason they're showing these saggy tits all here, and it's probably because she's coming back. And then when I heard the like person saying Soldom lines, I was like, that sounds like an Irish accent. Maybe that's Megan Saggy Tits Mix Sedai. And it was, but we'll save that for later. But that's another reason my favorite episode, not the saggy tits. I don't want to watch that anymore. I fucking hated this character, and I'm glad she's a slave now. So yay. However, aside from the accent shit, and I don't think that Egwene ever heard Megan Mixedai's accent, all she does here is kind of like the standard refrain from Soldom about you can't beat or you can't injure a Soldom, and everything that they feel, you feel twice over. And then for some reason, Egwene is able to see through that and immediately think it's a Damane and not a Soldom giving instructions. So, yeah, it's stupid. All right, then we get a Falme scene with the creepy 14-year-old. Just noting once again that sensing channeling is now a thing. It wasn't in the first season. In fact, large points of the plot of the first season hinged upon women not being able to sense other women channeling. So I wonder if they're making this a talent and or fuck off. You know what might honestly be happening? Those fucking pacifiers that they're making these Damane wear, because Egwene doesn't have one yet, and neither does Mixedai, which we'll see kind of a little bit later. But maybe this one is able to point out channelers because she's got a special fucking pacifier Tur Angreal that lets her detect women channeling. If that's what they end up doing, I'm going to claim that the show fucking watched this and then stole my idea to like dig them out of the hole that they dug for themselves. So yeah, there's that. Nynaeve and Elayne are being sent away by Rima, and they say, no, we ain't gonna go. The girls stand up to this Aes Sedai, and she just basically says, okay. So, yeah. Told down by a novice and an accepted, and it's totally fine. And then she whips out an IDOM that they're all going to go practice on. Cool. All right. Now, finally, like, this is a semi-pointless Moron scene, but finally we get a fucking answer to what happened to Moron. So the show is now saying she's been stilled. And what the show doesn't realize is, okay, cool, Lan is dead. That's what should have fucking happened to him. Because there are multiple examples in the books of, well, when an Aes Sedai gets stilled, what happens to the warder? The most telling ones are in the Battle of Dumai's Wells. Dumai's Well. I keep forgetting how many wells there are. Probably only one. But there's one of the Aes Sedai. There's 3 that get stilled immediately by Rand when he breaks out. One of them had 2 warders. One of the warders basically died on the spot, and the other went completely apeshit. Just like his bond had been severed, and he went to go hack up 100 Aiel and got himself killed. Like that's what would have happened to Lan. So congratulations, show. Whatever. Yeah. So Moron is writing some messages, and then the text shows up like this is House of Cards. Barthanes comes in and talks about his buttery sandwiches, which are yay. Thank goodness we got this instead of anything from the books, because Barthanes and his buttery sandwiches is exactly what I wanted to take up the airtime. Barthanes is also gay a little bit more for Rand. He probably had an additional sandwich to give to him. Then Moron is berated later. Oh shit, skipped too far. Berated by Nynaeve for missing their dying father's last wish, which was to see Moron one last time. And Nynaeve's like, what was so important? What was so important that you couldn't come and hold your father's hand as he died? And we all know it's because Moron was searching for the Dragon Reborn. Except what we also all know is that during this time of 20 years, Moron didn't find out anything. She had a 20-year quest, and by the end of 20 years, all she knew was that the Dragon Reborn was 20 years old. That's literally from the start of the show. Literally. Didn't know where he or she was, didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, didn't know under what circumstances, had no fucking clue. So honestly, if you've been at something for 15 years, let's say, and you haven't gotten anywhere, but you're still going on your quest, but then you get the message, hey, your dad's dying. You know what? Maybe you could take like a 3-week break at all. Like just go on vacation. It's kind of important for your family business. You're probably not going to end that much farther behind because you took 3 weeks off on your mission, which for 15 years yielded nothing. And spoiler alert, the next 5 years would lead you nowhere either because you're fucking retarded. All right. And then she has to make some stink about her being the eldest sister and wants her house back. So yeah, make her more unlikable because nothing's better than being retarded and unlikable. Yay. All right. Then we get a swan scene. So she's back. She's literally in a carriage with a driver, 4 horses, and 2 outriders. So that's how the Almerlin travels with like 3 guards. Cool. That's how that was in the books, right? It's not like her traveling around was a big deal. Then we remember that there was this whole Logain plot that we forgot about for 2 episodes. And all of us book readers know, like, how the fuck is Logain going to teach Rand anything because he's been gentled? So apparently he can still see what Rand sees. Logain is also the least suicidal suicide case after Jeffrey Epstein. They yak about embracing the source by grabbing it. So yay, way to fuck that up. Logain's giving pointers. So again, is he feeling or seeing any of this? And the grand total of Logain's training of Rand is 27 seconds. And the only defense of this shit, especially if Rand goes off to never see Logain again in the whole series and turns into a great channeler, the 27 seconds of on-screen 1 power training is still more than the sword training that Rand apparently got from Errol or anybody else. So yay. Okay, so then we get a somewhat touching scene, which is gonna, hit the feels and everything like that. And it's Matt finally reuniting with Rand. Although I think Matt is more like Bacon from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels with both his accent, what he's saying, and the gambling shit. So there's that. But we like it because yay, we like it when these two guys show up and finally Matt isn't a piece of shit or the show isn't shitting on him. I will note that they still keep saying what in Light's name, which is dumb. They should say the light, but that would also be dumb because what they should say is what under the light, because the light is not a person. So there's that. But just so we're aware, although this scene is meant to kind of like, our expectations have basically been dug out to the point where if they only do something like 9% good, I think we're happy, and don't notice other shit. But we should note this on the fucking Matt scene, and that is Matt asks Rand where everyone else is. And I'm like, you just saw Egwene like 2 episodes ago. You saw her in the White Tower. You also got a letter read to you by Leandrin. And I know she might be unreliable or like evil or whatnot, but it was a letter from Pern that said he was with the Shinarans and going cross country chasing the Horn of Valir with the Loial guy who I don't think he ever met, but whatever. But Pern was writing to Nynaeve and Egwene, who are in the White Tower. So Matt has more information about the friends than Rand does. So why is he asking this? Why isn't he saying, well, it's stupid. He could be saying the opposite. Hey, I got something to tell you about Pern. He's off with Shinarans, and I think Egwene and Nynaeve are in the White Tower. But yeah, it's this sucks. Okay, now we can go back to Falme, and we have again, the whole demonic can sense women when they channel. So it's retcon already discussed. They're holding the Damani leash and collar that Rima had secured for them. And then Elayne says she has never seen anything like this. And I'm like, you're a fucking novice. How is that a significant line for you? At all. We know later on she turns into a ter'angreal expert. That's kind of her whole story thing. So this is like an Easter egg for book 8 fans, but fuck, the show's retarded. Like, she's a novice at this point. How is she some kind of expert on ter'angreal? Then they mention it's a ter'angreal, and then Nynaeve has to say, "Oh, like the arches." Shut the fuck up, Nynaeve. You're already the worst fucking character in the show. Like, you're worse than worse. I don't need you to explain for the uninitiated about what ter'angreal are. But anyways, Rima says that she was sent to investigate the coast, and I'm like, you don't send the yellow Aja to investigate anything, fucking dumbass. Also, incidentally, Rima seems to have a black Aja ring. Maybe it's brown, but that looks pretty black. And then there's further hints that a sitter for the blue Aja was captured. I hope everyone realizes sitters don't really leave the White Tower on missions or anything at all, because they have to kind of fucking sit in the hall to like do political shit. So there's that. Good job, show. You can't even get that fucking right. The name is Sitter. They sit their fucking asses down on a bench. They don't go places. Fucking idiots. All right. Okay, cool. I think this is like the 5th or 6th torture scene for Egwene. It's still talking about the water. I don't care. I actually like Rena more at this point. Oh, that's too far. Rena says something inaccurate, saying that the Idom was created by the White Tower. That is wrong, wrong, wrong. It was someone in Seanchan, the continent, who called themselves Aes Sedai, which were like ruling factions trying to like take over and use magic to blah, blah, blah. But it was not White Tower people that invented the Idom and this whole thing. So way to fuck that up, show. But Rena does make a good point about slavery, in that Egwene, as a shit collecting slave being groomed for double penetration by the White Tower, are you that much worse off here? I know you might have a welt on your cheek, and Rena seems not very nice, but at least she's not trying to get you to take a dick up your ass, Egwene, so look at that. Okay. Some talk about parlor tricks. That's also true, because all they basically learned to channel is to turn shit bucket water into drinkable water. And then they go to the window, and Rena decides to burn down Egwene's tree. So, anyways, next scene. Another reason why I like this episode, why it's my favorite. I actually like this shot, and it's making me look forward to the oval cutout dress, because quite honestly, this is quite a quality to your bosom. So, good job, show. All right. Next scene, we've got Matt and Rand. They're gonna bail. They have a meta conversation about the show, actually, where Rand is saying, "I thought everyone would be worse off without me," and then Rand's like, "No, no, no. No one would be better off without you. And I'm like, do the writers read what they write for themselves? Because that's the whole point of this. Leandrin has more fucking spoken words than Rand, Matt, and Perrin put together in this season. That's a fact. And they think that this is better. No, if you stuck to the fucking books, if you stuck to who the main characters were and the main plot points, you would have a better show. Because you know what? Robert Jordan was better at writing a story than you idiots were. But we're never going to get that. So at this point, all I can do is look at these points and just fucking laugh. So, anyways, we've got the term arrogant prick used in this fucking scene, and I just shrug my head and go, oh, okay, whatever. That's like the next time that's done. And then Matt is excited that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, whereas Book Matt was kind of like anti-excited about Rand being the Dragon Reborn. He was kind of scared of that. So stupid. All right. Then we've got Min, who likes to drink kind of earlier in the day than even me, with all their earrings, her side shave, and whatnot. Matt knocks at the door, being like, "Hey, Min, are you fucking in there?" Oh, wait, no, wait, I gotta read that again. Hey, Min, are you fucking in there? Because maybe she is. Door's locked. I don't know. Did she put a sock on the doorknob? She's a fucking hoe. Now, one thing to note, Min's visions always come true no matter what warning she gives. That was kind of like the main point behind Min and the whole thing behind her curse. So then when she warns Matt about what he's going to do, why? Because it's going to fucking come true no matter what. Maybe you warning him is exactly what spurred him for it to come true. You never know. He said he didn't want to know, but for some fucking reason, Matt decides immediately, oh, wait a second, you must have been like trying to like pull a fast one on me from the beginning. You've been planning this forever. Oh, you've been setting me up. Whatever. She tells him, if you love Rand, stay away from him. Not that it would do anything to save Rand, because everything Min sees comes true except for the fall of Faldara. Hooray. All right. Then we get this dumb scene where first Moron gives a letter to a butler, and then Moron speaks to her gay nephew about how much he loves her jambon and butter sandwiches. There's some more cringe fan art on the wall. Fuck, did I? No, I didn't. I didn't take a screenshot of that. Thank goodness. And here's just a quick side point about sandwiches. Um, if you're writing a fantasy story or adapting a fantasy story, don't call things sandwiches, because without the Earl of Sandwich and the history behind how that word came into our nomenclature, it doesn't really make that much sense. Similar, like I'll even say to like Tolkien, you shouldn't have used the word eavesdrop, because eavesdrop doesn't make sense outside of the court of Henry VIII, because he basically had gargoyles around his Whitehall palace that would listen in on the court, and the eavesdroppers were basically gargoyles above the eaves, surrounding everything where everything was said, and those were the ones who would basically be listening in on things that weren't said. Similarly, another example, very easy example, is Spartan, to describe a room. If you're doing this in a fantasy setting, and you say something looked Spartan or Spartan decor or whatnot, if there was no actual fucking Sparta in your world, in your history, that created that word of how it was used to like be an adjective or whatever, don't use it in your fantasy, Brandon Sanderson. Don't use Spartan. Similarly, there are words that you should look out for, and sandwich is one of them. We basically say, here's your sandwich, and then you look around and you mean the dish or the meal or whatever named after the Earl of Sandwich? How did that come into existence in this fucking world? Don't do it. That's like fantasy 101. Just take some fucking care. All right. So, anyways, Moron apologizes about being a bitch for the first time, and then says if Barthanes was king, he would be a great king. And I'm wondering, would he be king, or would he be kind of like second in command to the queen, which would technically make him like a prince consort or something gay? Whatever. The Amerlin seat is here. So finally, we are at chapter 1 of The Great Hunt. The Amerlin seat shows up with 14 Aes Sedai. It's literally, we're at episode 6 of the second season that's supposed to cover books 2 and 3, and we're now finally at chapter 1 of book 2. Good job, show. Way to do that. All right, so we got 3 reds. We've got Caillou in the purple. We've got Cho Chang and Varen and Alana, a couple others in this. Leandrin walks over and she bitches to the Amerlin and just fuck off. Rand decides after being at the gate for a while and Matt not showing up that he's going to bug out. So he decides to leave, and then Lan runs into him and says, I can't let you leave. Don't care. All right, then we've got another Egwene torture scene. Both her eyes look bloodied now. Good. Then I think, yeah, this whole thing, we're basically cutting back between Egwene being tortured and the girls and Rima and whatnot, but they're channeling into the IDOM and they say, we just need a little bit more power, but if one of the two of us channels it, it could be felt by the Soldam Damane who can detect it. And I'm just being like, that's not how the Force works. Because that's not how this works. If the two of you are channeling and like you need another trickle and it's better to come from a third so that no one will that's not how this works. Like you could have linked and done this, but anyways, aside from this nonsense, Rima gives some bad channeling advice, and then all of a sudden, Nynaeve doesn't have her block anymore because she actually channels without being angry or afraid or anything else. She just does it kind of uncontrolled. And then happens to say afterwards that the ter'angreal needs healing, which means that it needs to be on someone in order to work or for them to study it. So yeah, Nynaeve understands ter'angreal better than Elayne, although Elayne doesn't know shit yet, but like they're giving her that talent. So there's that. Then let's cut back to Egwene's like 9th torture scene where it's all about 2 girls, 1 cup. Who cares? The 14-year-old with the pacifier, Damane, enters the street, causes a panic. Fat Warder entered a little bit before. He's got the letter E carved on his face, so maybe he was on Sesame Street earlier. I don't know. Let's cut back to Egwene, who stands and then falls. And then we get this where Rima and Fat Warder give each other sex eyes as they pass in some type of, I don't know what this is, but like he's chopping shit and she's like blasting stuff, and they're just like moving past each other like, hey, you, it's going to be fucking awesome fight scene coming up. And let's cut back to Egwene about pour the water. And then Rena, like, one hand picks her up and lifts her up the fucking wall and hooks her collar on the hook. I'm like, oh, you're strong. Maybe you are actually a man, Zelia Thing Jones. It's not. It's really not. It's just a very confused person maybe with an overlarge clitoris that looks like a proto-penis. That's what that is. Anyways, the fight goes badly for Fat Warder and Rima, to the point where Fat Warder needs to now kill Rima because Rima went out into the street in order to sacrifice herself, but then didn't want to sacrifice herself, and she would rather die, knowing that the warder here would also die if she died. So why is this your plan? Why not like make a scene of channeling to like be like, oh, that must have been the person embracing the power, but then try to escape? Why is this it? Where you're basically just like, I'm gonna try and take on everybody, and then when I got an arrow shot in me and my warder's been sliced in the back, now I want my warder to kill me, which would basically turn him into a fit of rage. And like, how is this your plan? I literally don't know. Oh god. Then we cut back to Egwene and there's more of this shit. And like, god. And then Rima, after the warder didn't kill her because he got stabbed with a harpoon of air, then she goes nuts in grief and decides to fucking contort the shit out of this Soldam. So there are more effective ways to kill with the one power, just so you know. More to the point, like, you wouldn't be able to do this, use the one power as a weapon out of like grief or revenge, which is what she's doing. Maybe she's in defense of her own life, but her life's not being threatened because they're going to collar her. Like that's the deficiency of the O's that was explored in the books of like why Aes Sedai were susceptible to the Seanchan, in that they literally couldn't fight back until it was too late. But good job, show. Good job on that. You just turned her into a murdering psychopath. Yay. Wouldn't be possible, but yeah, okay. Forgot I had this shot in here, but there you go. That's someone bound by the 3 O's right there. Good work. Good work, show. So thankfully, this psycho bitch gets collared. We go, peace and order have been restored to the city. Hurrah, hurrah. Good. She was a useless character. And then finally, this whole thing is over. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah. Over an hour into this fucking thing, finally, Egwene can touch the fucking jug of water. So the one line about her not being able to touch a jug of water because she thought once about hucking it at Rena, which turned into the whole fucking episode of this. Finally, it's over. And she's caved. And she screams about it. I don't care. I fucking hate her. I'm on Team Rena. Hashtag Team Rena. That's who I'm with. Even though played by a weirdo, I like her a hell of a lot more than Show Egwene. And then we kind of end on fucking Mygan Mixadai. Basically says, "Oh, Egwene, you gave in, but you lasted longer than I did, and I am a sitter for the Blue Aja." Fuck this show. Like, best episode, but only because it beat and abused terrible characters who had it coming. That's the only reason to like it. There are some deficiencies in this episode. I would have hoped that certain characters would have been killed. A lot of characters would have been killed, but they weren't killed. I don't think anyone's killed, other than Fat Warder, who is not really a character. But there's that. There's some things in this episode that were semi-book accurate. The abuse and the torture and the like beating of Egwene when she was collared, like it was done. It wasn't done correctly. It was overdone in that I think she had like 8 scenes of this, and like half the fucking episode was devoted to her. And all you're left wondering is like, why am I getting this as opposed to any of the other main characters? More main character. Egwene's a side character still in this book. She's still a side character in this, and she got a whole episode of this whole arc. Why are we getting this instead of, you know, actual plot? Oh, we know it's because it's who they prioritize. So let's just view that in context. But anyone thinking, oh, that this was a step up, you know what? It was, because the previous episode sucked so much. Things actually happened in this episode. Um, but it doesn't mean it was good. So there's that. Anyways, sorry the stream sucked. Sorry you guys are watching it. Looks like I have some comments. Don't know if I can actually read any of these because I'm pretty loaded. I'll read them the next day and respond to it. Thanks everyone for coming out. Yeah, don't stay tuned for the next one. Sorry about this. At least I think this was better than the show. Anyways, have a good night.